All right, we're back rolling. Another great preview week. What do
Yeah.
you want to talk about? The production values again, Steve?
I think you were messing with me like I sabotaged the 30-second countdown video you have.
I don't. No, you know what it was? I thought maybe I had signed in on your thing by accident. I didn't
Okay.
realize that I didn't. But well, the good the good thing is we got a great guest on today to talk about this preview. Buffalo. First of all, we don't lose to Buffalo. Before I say anything else, we don't lose to Buffalo, right? That goes back to the 90s, right? Like,
Oh yeah,
we don't lose to Buffalo, but we got Mike Burton on.
There's no we.
What do you mean we?
I got him on. I want that on record.
What? You got Mike Burton on?
Yes, I want that on
I
record.
said we have him on.
Yes, we. But
you want credit for getting him on?
Yes.
he wants.
Okay, so you got all right. There you go.
I want it
I don't know if
noted.
it exists or not, but yeah.
I want it noted on record. Yes.
Don't worry, the powers that be will notice. Okay, Steve, don't worry. So we have Mike Burton on. Obviously, Mike played was a great player at University of Connecticut. Played under Skip Holtz. Were you under Randy too, or
Yeah. So
You were-
4 under Skip, and my last year was Randy's first year.
Oh, okay, your last year was Randy's first year.
Yeah.
If you didn't know already, if you're a UConn fan, the Burton family complex is named after his family, and he is also the lead driver between on the Bleeding Blue Collective for UConn, which is really doing some great things. He's breaking ground for UConn, especially football wise. You're breaking ground from a collective standpoint, and obviously, I'm sure learning on the fly too with how to navigate the NIL process, which is quite the challenge. So before we talk about any of the UConn versus Buffalo stuff, talk to me a little bit about the Bleeding Blue and what you guys are doing.
Store Central
really
too.
help the
Store
players.
Central.
Yeah. So, and thanks for having me, guys. Dave, I haven't seen you in a long. I've seen you on YouTube, but I haven't talked to you in forever. And we go way back. We go back. It's almost 30 years now.
I know,
which is pretty scary. But so I got involved. Bleeding Blue for Good was set up 2 years ago. I got involved in October when there was no football presence at all.
Right.
And they basically said, I was talking to our athletic director, Dave Benedict, who, by the way, is great. And he's like, listen, we got to figure something out for football. And I had gotten to the point where I'm like, listen, I got to do something. I feel like it's time to do something because candidly, if we got to figure out a way to raise money. I saw what was going on because my brother was doing it for Syracuse NIL. So, and he was telling me exactly what they were doing. And I'm like, man, these guys are way ahead of us. And so we sat down, met with Coach Mora. I said I'd get involved and I'd run the football part for Bleeding Blue. And we started off and just said, listen, how are we going to build this? And starting in October and by the end of December, we had raised over $500,000 for football alone. I was told we could only get 300. That would be the best we could do. We knew we'd do better than that. And then since then, we've done even better. So, when you look at the world of football that's out there, there's the Power Four, and there are some big guys in that number. Like the Ohio States are spending $20 million a year. Like that,
Yep.
That's the top of the food chain. And then there's probably 10 or so of those guys, and they descend in order. And then you get to like the ACC schools that are probably spending, I would guess, 3 to 7.
Yeah,
and Florida State's probably an outlier there, although you don't see it on the field right now. And then to get to the group of 5. And that's where it gets really interesting because most of these schools do not have real funds to put into football. They don't. They're struggling financially. They don't have they're not a state university, the majority of them. They don't have the backing of the state. They don't have a basketball program. They don't have an athletic program. So our goal was, hey, listen, let's be the best in the group of 5 this first year. Now, there's no way to validate these numbers because the NIL world is just full of blatant lies. That's what you quickly realize.
right?
But we feel like we're top 5 for sure. And next year we're starting now for next year. Like it's a year-round thing, but this portal is going to open December 9th. And so we're always taking advantage of what we think is going to be a really good year to show, hey, listen, look at what we put together, look at its impact on the field, and let's if you like it, we can do a lot more of it. And then with revenue share coming to play, hopefully in July of next year, the school can help us too. So we're in an all-in scenario. We're in a prove me kind of state right now where we want to show people, hey, listen, we're here. Like, listen, the record for the last 10 years has not been good. We're not going to hide from it. It's the reality.
Right.
We want to go. And my goal, when I got involved, I was really clear. Like, the reason I'm doing this is because I want to get to a power conference. Yes. And I realized that the only way to get there is not through basketball winning 30 championships. They've already done that. Like, I'd love to get 3 in a row, but I don't, that's not what's holding us back. It's the fact that our football has not been competitive enough, and we got to make it competitive quickly. And that's what we did with Bleeding Blue, and then Store Central. So that's a non-for-profit. So if you give to that, you can go to bleedingblue.org. It's a tax-deductible contribution. It's great. Those kids, for that money, when we sign a kid up for Bleeding Blue, they got to do charity work in the community. So we're basically we're trading their services to charity, and then therefore you get a tax deduction. So it's a really good thing. These kids are doing stuff at children's hospitals, blood drives, animal shelters, like really good things that you'd all be proud of. And then there's Store Central, which is more of a media company, but allows us, it's a for-profit collective where we can now, you need to have both because there's rules behind, for non-for-profit and for-profit. So we wanted to have both. And so we kicked that off in March, and that's got over 1,000 paying subscribers so far. And we want to do a lot better. But yeah, that's the world of UConn collectives. Like, that's how we do it. And we've grown really quickly. Basketball was ahead of football, but football's coming. Like, it's really here. And I think and Dave and Steve, you appreciate this. People just got to see it. Like, they got to see it. Connecticut's a state where you got to show them that, people aren't just going to show up. Like, look at our stadium the last couple of years, and even FAU, which was a step in the right direction. But you start putting wins together, and you show some exciting football, like, people will come. They'll support it. We've seen the recipe before, and so we're confident in that.
Yeah,
that makes a lot of sense. The whole NIL world is confusing to a lot of people. That's what I think. Before we talk about the game, I think it's really important for people to understand from someone that's actually involved in it, how it all works. Because you saw, the headlines from the last couple of days with Matt Sluka from UNLV, like what he was supposed to get, the verbal agreements, and obviously, when someone isn't experienced in business, as a lot of these young kids aren't, they could be in a position to hear one thing. It may be true, it may not be true, or they want it to be true, or it's just you could have a coach that's throwing things out there, right? And that's very possible too, right?
That's what I couldn't believe. Yeah, Mike said that they're offering kids money they don't have. Yeah, and that's right. Terrible to do.
Well, talk about how it works, at least from the UConn side, as you know it, if that's all you can speak to, obviously, right? Mm-hmm. So how we do it at UConn, but how does it work? Like, if a player, we're interested in bringing them there, there's a financial compensation that goes into it. What is how does that process work a little bit? Give a little insight of how that actually works.
Yeah, it's a great question. And it's changed actually from the December window of last year to the April window, where now the collective can get directly involved with the kid during recruitment. Yeah. And the one thing that I'll say and I would have told Matthew Saluka this, I saw him play because my son plays at Georgetown. That kid's a hell of a player. Yeah. You have to have a contract, period. Like, that's it. If it's not, the old saying, if the paper is worth what it's written on, right? Like, you have to have it. And so when a kid comes to UConn, we're going to get involved in the story. We're going to meet with them. Like, I'm going to meet with them, and there's one other gentleman in the collective that's going to meet with. We're going to sit with them. We're going to talk to the family. We're going to understand what's going on. We'll determine evaluation based upon a lot of factors. Coaching staff is going to talk to us about what's going on. They're intimately involved, and then we'll sit down with them and we'll and then when they get on, we'll come to a number. And then when they get on campus, they will sign a contract.
Yeah.
Like every one of our players has a fastened contract. We have never missed a payment once. And I think it's really important because the horror stories that I've heard from a lot of the kids that we recruited are terrible. Like I won't say his name because I don't want to put him on the spot, but he was promised a lot of things. And it wasn't like, but he had to get a job during season to pay bills for his family because the school defaulted on the commitment.
Didn't come through.
Like, I mean, this isn't a kid looking to drive a $1 million car and buy jewelry. Right. This is a kid that wanted to help his mom and his sister pay like some bills so they could use their phones. And so we told these guys straight up, everything we tell you, we're going to put it in writing, and we're fully funded to back it up. So like every kid out there who's listening, or the advice I would tell you is Matthew Saluka should have gotten a contract. That's it. He should have gotten a contract and said, here are the details with the collective, and that's it. And then, and that's the biggest thing I can tell kids today. It's meaningless without it. It's all BS. And I would tell you, that's why we feel so good about where we're at, because our reputation is really good. And in this world, like, reputation is 90% of it. So
yeah, the process, I think that's a great point. And we talked about this before. Like, you have to have it's amazing to me how people will go somewhere without a contract on it, and
when that kind of money's involved too.
Well, it's surprising too. Like, quarterbacks are usually obviously among the brighter guys on your football team, but I do think that you get in these situations where you want something to happen and you're hopeful, and that's where you make the mistake instead of going with the tangible, right? And you get into those situations. But that's really, really a great insight, because I think this whole thing is so important for them to understand who are people that and trying to figure out. Like, I advise every parent, figure out through the process, try to get with people that you can trust in this process, because there's a lot of things out there. And I was an NFL agent for 6 years, so I tell Steve this all the time. Like, I would say, like, the beauty of the NFL system was that you had a set contract that you had, okay, and then you added parameters to that contract. There was no such thing as like a verbal agreement. It either was on paper or it wasn't, right? There was a set amount that you could get from a commission standpoint, whether agents liked it or not. There was a set amount. There was a players union that, whether you like the players union, I had plenty of problems with the players union, right? Yeah. But it did help the players from a standpoint of they understood what was going to happen, right? And so these are all things that, I mean, down the line, obviously, there's a big mess with it all. But the biggest advice is obviously figure out people that you can trust. What you said is 100% true. If it's not on paper, I don't care how much you want it to happen, it's not going to happen. Do not trust it if it's not down on paper. Yeah. And if you have to take less money from another school to make sure it's on paper, that's what you do. It's just, hey, I'm sorry, you don't get 100K, you get 50K, right? But that's 50K you're going to get.
Well, it happened to the Florida quarterback too. The Florida quarterback was promised like $14 million a year. He just had to enroll, and he enrolled or whatever, and he didn't get a dime, and ended up transferring to Arizona.
It was a verbal thing, and you don't know, like, these. That's the other thing that for players is that what I really like about what you're doing is that you're upfront with everything. I mean, obviously I played ball with you. I know how you are, and you're making sure they understand these things, because we want players to have a good experience. That's the key, because as the Sluka thing is rough on Sluka, but you know who it's really rough on overall? Reputation of UNLV, right?
Yes,
that's
big time.
Who really, like, now the next player they go to offer something to is obviously not going to trust it. Look what it's done to Florida, okay, from a playing standpoint. Florida is struggling. Napier's on the hot seat.
He's on his way out.
He may have had nothing to do with the whole situation, but because of when it transpired, players then get a different impression. So in the long run, obviously, what you said is 100% true. The reputation is the key, and you got to protect that as much as possible and get the players in that do that. So it's kudos to you what you're doing. I think it's so important for UConn. Obviously, there is their kids are making money now. That's the reality of the world. And that's good for them, but being able to put it down in the right manner is the key. And I love that Bleeding Blue is doing that. And to me, obviously, because I know you, that you're the leader of it is an awesome thing.
Yeah, it's been, and you're right. We've been drinking from a fire hose because so many things are changing at once, but our word is our bond. And I tell you, that means a lot because, like, I'll give you a great example. Skylar Bell came to us in December. Skylar's a kid, played at TAP, but he's from the Bronx. My son played against him in prep school. Great. What a great dude. Great kid. He's having a good experience.
Was he the Wisconsin or Purdue kid?
Wisconsin receiver.
He's been playing great.
Yeah. He's playing great now, but he was having a good spring. How do you think we got Nick Evers? Who talked him into it. If we weren't paying him and we weren't living up to our agreement with him, there's no way a kid like Nick's going to say this is real. So that's why the word of mouth and these kids, and they talk. They talk on the device. They do everything. And that's why it's like, listen, we're playing this. There's no BS with us. We're straight up. We're coming. And by the way, we walk the kid through we have a lawyer who works on our collective. He's great. Right. He's a former West Pointer, went to Purdue. He's just a stud. We walk through every kid. We say, get a representation on there with you. Get your mom on the thing. We're going to walk you through every line on it. It's like a 4-page document. We're not trying to overwhelm them. Like, we want them to understand it. And we show them, like, here's the things that you have to do. Like, you got to be a good student. Like, you can't not go to class. Like, you got to, there's parameters here around this contract that are important. So, like, for us, it's doing the right thing. It's so far it's working. So it's good.
Is it year by year, or do you do it for 4 years?
No, these are annual deals.
It's got to be annual.
But this world's about to change again. Revenue share is going to, and they're still waiting on this big legal conflict they've had between former players and the NCAA. I don't know what's going to pass. It's beyond my purview. But I will tell you that every other league you look at, there's collective bargaining, and somehow. In my world, in my mind, these kids are going to have to be employees of the university, and they're going to have to be unionized, because then you can actually collectively bargain with them, and then you can put caps in place.
Correct.
Until then, there's no judge that's going to let some of this stuff come through. But there is some hope that there's going to be a revenue share piece starting in July of next year.
Yep.
Where I think the cap's $22 million for all sports
with the television. Yep.
Yeah, and listen, I'm not sure every school is not getting the $22 million. I can tell you, because a lot of them have to come up with new money. Like, a lot of these schools spend it. Like, it's not like they're not all pocketing like $30 million a year of profit. Like, a lot of this just keeps going into driving it forward. So it allowed the school to pay him. So it's a good step in the right direction. In our school, like I said, our athletic director is great. He believes and he sees the world the same way we do, which is football is critical to the ongoing future. So, like, we are all in this year, next year, and obviously beyond that. But we think that if we can put a couple good years together, we're going to show people that, listen, this is who we are. We're a pretty attractive commodity here.
Very.
We'd love to join a power conference.
Yeah,
absolutely. I think that's. I think your step-by-step process is really, really, really important. Like, I mean, early on, I was very and Steve knows I was critical. Like, what is going on here? Like, and from a process standpoint, and once he let me know, hey, Mike's driving this, and I'm like, well, obviously I know Mike, so I know that it's going to go in the right direction. I think that's an important thing that I think that you're doing. Obviously, Steve's doing that with his Husky Talk and really trying to make everybody aware what the process is. I mean, I think in a short time, with Steve's doing, and Steve got me to jump on board, and obviously with what you're doing, like there's been a lot of traction because I think UConn is in this opportunity stage, right? It's really an opportunity stage where you kind of have a window of time that we could jump through that window of time and get there. Otherwise, you're set back 8 to 10 years, possibly in that process. So, I see that, and I see the opportunity, and the university's doing things, by bringing Phil on and
Yep.
Phil Hunt on and trying to get to ramp it up. But you're 100% right. It is like drinking through a fire hose because it's so fast. It's moving so quickly. And the the Power 4 conference schools had such a leg up, right, on the whole process. When I heard Ohio State, I'm good friends with the recruiting coordinator at Penn State, and he said, yeah, we have good money, but he said Ohio State is able to straight up, and Ryan Day, who played in our conference, college, I know Ryan, and he basically has a budget that is far ahead of anybody else, and he's
got a
able
war
to buy.
chest.
Yeah, he's got a war chest, right? And then obviously, as soon as they find out that Ryan's got a war chest, Alabama's like, "What is that war chest?" Okay, we'll Texas A&M, so on and so forth. So all of a sudden, all those schools ramp it up very, very quickly, and they have the structure in place. So it's great to see how we're building that structure in place of football, and it is, I think, more difficult at UConn in the sense that basketball is so successful, and so many people in Connecticut associate University of Connecticut with basketball, which is great. I mean, obviously, Hurley's phenomenal. Like, I can't get enough of consuming content on Hurley, right? Like, I watched Hurley and his wife's banter back and forth. It's phenomenal. But and obviously Gino's a phenomenal leader and coach in what he's done with the women's program. But on the football side, where almost every other state school and big school is led by football, we're in an unusual spot that obviously basketball has led first. So being able to rally it and build it is an education process in the state as much as it is anything else, right? And I always go back to, I always say this to Steve, I go back to Lou Perkins, like, and from what you told me about Dave Benedict, he's driving to be in that kind of. Lou was so great at it. God rest his soul. Lou was so great at that process, and building UConn and marrying football with basketball where needed,
believed in it.
and helping all the athletic departments. And when you tell me David is really working to make that happen as well. But I always think, like, Lou, that the gap happened, because Lou, who was so great, it was hard to replicate a Lou for a long time in that department. It's not just something you can go in and plug. When you replace a legend like Lou, it's hard to replace a legend like that, right? And but obviously now with David, we're starting to get that process, and I think that you're so critical to that part, and other people that you're bringing in as well.
Yeah. It's truly a collective effort. We have great.
Their board of directors is great. Yeah.
Yeah. And I will tell you, we have some people that give to us that were there either before us, before even Dave and I, that are just awesome. I mean, guys that believe it, see the vision, that are investing in football, that are like, listen, I'm all in. And I tell you, they get really excited when you beat down teams like 48-14. Like, I'm telling you, I talk to guys and they're like, this is what we were talking about. And it's so great to show them. And I'll give you something funny. Like, some guy, a gentleman, I don't want to say his name, but all of a sudden Saturday night, I get a text saying, this guy just gave $5,000 to our collective. I don't know who this person is.
Yeah.
He's just like, he wanted proof. Like, there's people out there that are starting to show up, and it's just great to see it, because I know that, listen, we can be very competitive. I believe that we should be in a power conference. I think we can be competitive in it because we've done it before. And we offer something now that a lot of schools don't, because, like, listen, they got $20 million at Ohio State, but they can only play, 22 guys on offense and defense. So, like, that, the good news is that number is not changing, the 22. So at the end of the day, kids love the money, but they also love to play. Like, they gotta play, because a lot of them want to go to the NFL, and you cannot get in there behind some of these studs they have at Ohio State. So we offer a lot of Power 4 guys today, and you can see it on our roster, a chance to be either the guy or a huge part of what we're doing. And I think, and with Coach Mora, he is so good in the portal. Like, I'm telling you, this guy is phenomenal. He's so credible because of his background. The kids, they understand who he is. He's not selling them BS. He's like, here's what I'm doing. Here's what I'm doing. Here's how I see you. And they love it. And the parents love him. They trust him because he's at a point in his career. He's like, I don't need to be doing this. I do this because I love it, and I want to make UConn something special, and I want these kids to be great. And like, he doesn't need to do this to get another job somewhere else. This guy is all in. It's awesome to see that.
It's interesting, the conference stuff, because like, I remember how successful we were in the Big East, right? With football wise, and before we went into the Big East, I remember people saying, "Oh, are they going to be able to compete in the Big?" And we did, obviously. I remember seeing us beat, Rutgers, and look at what Rutgers, with the opportunity to be in the Big. Rutgers is kind of my example to people on. Rutgers was given the opportunity to have the right coach in place, right?
Yes.
So Schiano's the right coach in place. He understands New Jersey. He understands Northeast recruiting. He also can dip into places around the country as well. So that's what's enabled Rutgers to be successful. We obviously competed side by side against Schiano back when we were in the Big East, and we beat them. I remember that was becoming like a big rivalry.
It was our first Big East win. Yeah.
Yeah, and Rutgers is now leveraged. I look at what Schiano's doing now in like his third or fourth year in recruiting. Given the time that he needed, he has one of the top recruiting classes. He's also built his collective up. He didn't have one in the beginning, and he built it up, and he's able to leverage the Big Ten to be able to get more players, and that's why they're starting to do well and they're having success. And to the guys in New Jersey, obviously I live in New Jersey, the attribute to Rutgers and being patient in that process with him and allowing him to do what he has to be able to do, which I see, UConn being able to mirror that. That's, to me, like, hey, if I was a conference like the ACC the ACC seems like a natural fit, but even the Big 12, it's like, hey, UConn's already done this before, okay? Right. Just like Rutgers, if Rutgers was stuck in independent land, they would struggle as well, okay?
Oh, yeah.
But Rutgers being able to go into a conference because of the aptitude of the Northeast, the same thing with Syracuse, right? Because the aptitude and financial capabilities of the Northeast and the place that we're positioned in, just like Rutgers is and just like Syracuse is, we can go to a whole nother level when given the opportunity. It's really, to me, about opportunity. It's hard for other places around the country because if you come from the middle of America, and you kind of been like, all the resources, let's say, goes to Indiana University, right? Everything goes to it. You don't really necessarily, if you're not directly involved with the Northeast school, you don't understand the overall capabilities that can happen. So as you pull this together, like in 1 year, we get into a conference. This is kind of my old pitch to it on it. You don't realize the resources that Connecticut can garner in the financial capabilities. And I always say this to people, they're like, Connecticut,
a lot to offer.
People don't really understand, right? What is the resources there? I said, have you ever been to Greenwich? Have you ever been to Darien? Have you ever been to, like David Letterman lives in Darien. Like, so people, where's the biggest financial market in the world, right? New York City. Okay, well, a lot of people live in New Jersey. A lot of people live in Long Island, and a lot of them live in Southern Connecticut.
Yeah.
That's where that's where they move to, right? So there's huge financial capability, and that's where the biggest financial markets in the world are. And that's where a lot of those people live. They just are looking for the opportunity to be able to have the right situation to give to that, right? And if we get in the conference, that's my pitch for it. If we get in a conference, that's what I think will happen, just like it did with the Big East, but maybe even more so, right? Because NAL is an opportunity for us. And now you can leverage, you're not just leveraging people that have maybe millions of dollars. We're talking billions and billions of dollars.
Yeah, you see it the exact way I see it. And I live in Wilton, but my son went to high school at Brunswick in Greenwich. That school has 6 billionaire families.
Yeah.
6. That's one school. And so you start to ask yourself, like, and we've made a real conscious. We've had a lot of events in Fairfield County. We've had them in Stanford. We've had them in a couple. We're having a bunch. We had a golf tournament in Greenwich for basketball. Like we are starting to surround the area because it's fertile ground. It's like as much as, and I'm a Fairfield County guy. Like a lot of people down here just don't understand it, and it's because they understand basketball, right? It's in their face. Right. You can't avoid it, but they don't understand football because they've never seen us win. Or they haven't seen us win in 15 years.
Consistently, right.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm with you. I think the resources, this state's got a lot of money. So I'm not worried about, like, the people will jump in. We just got to give them a reason to.
There's no doubt about it. And it's so interesting. And just because I'm down in New Jersey, like Greg Schiano was from Wyckoff, New Jersey, very, very prominent area financially in Bergen County. And having grown up and him growing up there, the resources that are there in Bergen County, which is right across from New York City.
Yep.
When he came back as the head coach there, it gave an opportunity. Now, those people who really honestly, and I say this, they don't really care about Rutgers, right? They didn't care about Rutgers. Schiano has made them care about Rutgers. They look at it and go, wow, this is an opportunity, right? Boom, I'll give those people may have gone to Rutgers, but really, Rutgers has had a spotty football past, right? Some, Schiano's had great years, but he's had some rough years too. And now they're like, hey, we believe in this. We're in a conference. And I think that's what I agree with 100%. That's what would happen with UConn. And to me, there's no doubt about it. It's the right people, like ringing the bell on it. It's and keep pushing and not saying when that door closes, like getting the people in the door to understand, like, this is the money that's available in this area, And I just think people don't realize it around the country because Connecticut is a small state. New Jersey is a small state, right? Massachusetts is a large state mass wise, but not population wise, right? People don't realize the overall wealth that is available, right? And I would say, like, okay, let's talk about New Jersey, let's talk about Connecticut, let's talk about Massachusetts. What school is the most prominent, one of the most prominent universities in the world that's in Massachusetts? Harvard. Okay. Let's go to Connecticut. What's one of the most prominent ones in the world in Connecticut? Yale. Let's go to New Jersey. What's one of the most prominent universities in
HYP.
the world? Princeton, right? So those three states will also mirror it with their high profile athletic. Boston College in Boston, Connecticut in University of Connecticut in Connecticut, Rutgers in New Jersey. And you can leverage, those are things that enable you to leverage, because those people want those people to be successful. Those are people that they hire to work for them in those states. Those are people that are employers and business people in those states and owners of businesses. And the people in UConn and Rutgers and Boston College are the same exact thing. They're owners. They work in those businesses, and they're prominent business people, and those people want to see successful things in their state. That's kind of my 2 cents. I guess we could go I guess we could preview the game if that's even as exciting about what we talked about.
It's good that we understand now a little bit more about the collective and how it works.
Yes.
And the process that goes into it. And I had no idea, like Mike was telling me on Husky Talk, that coaches will make agreements or promise kids money that they don't have yet, that they'll have to go out and raise. I think that's insane that they would do that. Tell a kid, I'm going to pay you this. 3 games into the season, they're 3-0 or whatever. And I know Saluka from Holy Cross because I was at Holy Cross. He brought them to the playoffs. He brought them to the championship a couple years ago. He's unbelievable. And to do that to him, that's just criminal. I mean, I just think that's so wrong to tell a kid that if you don't have the money on hand. Oh, we'll get it to you. The check's in the mail, Dave.
You need the contract. I come back to it every time. It's just put it on paper. That's why it's the first thing we do.
Yeah.
Like you can't give them a contract until they get on campus.
Right.
They have to, and then at that point, you can sit down with them in the first couple of weeks and say, here it is, right here. We're going to sit with you, get your mom on the phone, if you got a lawyer, get on the phone, you have an agent. We deal with agents too.
You have to, yeah.
So we've dealt with several agents, a couple on football and a bunch on basketball. So like you just sit down and go through it all and you work it through. And but the only thing before we go to Buffalo, last thing I'd say on the collective is we've done a good job of getting a core group of people that are giving large amounts. That's great. But we need to now spread out to people that give $100, give $500, give $100 a month. Like we need to really, and you saw, I don't know if you saw it, guys, but the Arkansas coach was like, hey, we can't rely upon the Waltons every time. Like we need 10,000 people at $100 a month. Like if we do that, we're going to be okay. Now I'm not asking for that, but we need to start getting more. We need to let more people know about it. And so thank you for helping me push it out. But B is we got to encourage people to give. And listen, if you're giving to something else, it's a tax deductible donation. You should do it. Like, and especially with your alma mater, like great, do it. And furthermore, if you don't have the money, I get it, no problem. But if you know people that do, maybe they even go to UConn, put them in touch with us. The coach will meet with you. We're looking for. You don't have to be an alumni to be a fan here. Like we're taking on. Like we're open for business. Like we want to talk to people about what's going on. We'd love to build our fan base. We're people that are non-alumni too. So like we're looking for everyone who's got interest in being part of something that you're kind of getting on the ground floor here, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. And that was the biggest thing too, was knowing about it. Like I talked to several guys, didn't even know we had a collective. So that was big. Now they know, and now they will be active participants in donating. Yeah. So the more we can reach with that, I think it'll make things a lot easier. So you won't have to rely on the 10, 12 people that you have.
Yeah, we even bought the logo. So we were the first collective. Like we're trying to be groundbreaking. We're a little crazy. Our Store Central guys. It's me and two other guys. Yeah. And we're all the other guy, the basketball guy. He's more quiet, but he's awesome. Like he does for basketball what I do for football. He's a total stud. And then our executive director. We're like, what is it going to cost to get the logo on the field at UConn? And so we're like, listen, we figured out we were able to get it. It wasn't free, I can tell you that much. But we want to invest. Like let people see it. Like you're going to see that 6 times a year, like 7 times this year, and you're going to see it hit you right in the face. Like we're going to be in your face. We're putting money where our mouth is. So we continue to try to find non-conventional ways. So we were the first collective to ever put their image on the field, which was cool. It got national news. That was worth what we paid for it alone.
Yeah, that's incredible. That is definitely a different model. That shows you how important it is. It shows you how important the fundraising element. It's going to be the lifeblood of college football. Obviously, I think eventually, I think you're 100% right that there's going to have to be some level of collective bargaining, some level of employee agreements. I said this. I'm doing so many shows now. I can't remember what show this was, but I said this to somebody that to me, it's no different than the person, like there's a person that's a cashier in like the Husky Co-op store or whatever, right? Like they attend the university and they have a job that they're getting X dollars an hour, right? Well, to me, eventually that's, they're just going to be high paid, but they're that's what it is. Like, why are they not able to get the benefits of that? And I say benefits beyond, obviously what you guys are doing is phenomenal, but you're talking benefits and that all employees start to get, right? From health insurance to protections to all different things. Now I know the university does that because I remember when we played, like you're covered and all those kind of things. But those extra protections are very helpful, right? You go and you're appearing at a hospital or anything like that. Now you're also protected as an employee because you're doing this work and this charitable work, and you go out and God forbid somebody trips walking through the hallway or something like that in the hospital, right? You're protected on all those kind of things, and I think in the long run, that's really I nominate you to be in charge of the NCAA's new group on getting the collectives done right.
No, Mike
I nominate you, Mike, for that. You're not. I don't think you want the extra work, but
no. I just worried about you. My whole job is UConn Power Conference.
Well, he's got to go to Georgetown too every now and then.
Yeah, that's the other thing too, which my whole life is like conflicted.
Driving to DC,
Georgetown games, and I do some crazy things to get to many games as possible. You'd be shocked.
That's unbelievable. All right, let's talk a little bit UConn versus Buffalo. First of all,
love when Buffalo comes to town.
Yes, the schedule I think is beneficial to UConn this year.
Very favorable.
Very beneficial. Gives us a lot of great opportunities. It also gave us a lot of great opportunities, other than the first game, to really get the transfers, because we have a lot of them and a lot of young new guys too, to really get their feet wet and be able to get opportunities for potential success if we take advantage of it, which I think we've done in the last few games, including the loss to Duke. I thought, I got in here and that, even though we lost to Duke and we could have won that game, I looked at it like we were on the right track there. Like we competed really well. Duke's actually had a lot of success in the last few years, even though I know it's a new coach, but their coach is a famous, well-known coach, Manny Diaz. So it's not like that's, you're getting in some guy who isn't. I thought they played well there. And then obviously the 2 wins that are sandwiched outside of that, they played really well. And last week, which Steve wants to see, the run game really was going in a great direction. Not just the running backs, but obviously Evers ran well.
Yeah, he did.
So I really think. So what do you think coming up here for Buffalo? We're going to see. I guess should I forward it to you, Steve, first, since I know.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. Yes, I would like. I would like it to be forwarded to me.
Okay.
I liked Nick Evers' efficiency last week. He only had to throw 14 passes. He was 9 of 14. He did a great job protecting the ball. He ran well. He's very, very efficient. And I mean, he impressed me. I told you I'm not the biggest RPO guy, but he's definitely improved on his running RPOs. I love the running backs. I just think they have stud running backs with I think Robinson's the freshman, Cam obviously, and then Mel Brown. I think they got 3 good running backs, and then there's Victor Rosa as well. Skyler has been incredible. He's been such a dynamic addition. He's a big play threat. He's averaging 23 yards a reception. And it was good to see TJ Sheffield get involved more. And he had a good game against whoever we played last week in FAU. He had 7 catches. So I like that. I told you the 3-3-5 scared me defensively, but they are starting to figure it out. They're getting a little more pressure on the quarterback. They had a couple sacks.
Steve, are you just saying that because Mike's on here?
No, I heard him before. He was very negative on the 3-3-5.
I said,
Mike, you can always count on me to I gotta get a second. No, I'm just teasing you, Steve. I'm just teasing.
I don't like the. I do not like the 3-3-5. I do not like it. But Mike was correct when he told me it's not really a 3-3-5. There's always going to be a 4 down, and he is correct. I'd like to see them disguise their blitzes a little bit better, so they don't know where they're coming from. And I love their tight end. I love their tight end, the big German. I think he does a great job. Whether they use him as from the sniffer or they use him, he can run routes pretty well. He's a big bastard, and I think he is essential in their passing game too. But I like I said, I don't like being in the gun all the time. That's the only thing that concerns me, because as Joe D corrected me, I don't think that you can throw in the Northeast when in Rentschler Field in late October, November, when it's windy and bad weather. I want to be able to get in the eye. I want to be able to run some power. I want to run some counter. I want to run some play action. That's all.
That's how you know you're old, Steve, by the way.
Listen, you're back to 1995, man.
That's how that was Randy's model. Randy's model: run the football, play tough defense, play field position, don't turn it over, score in the red zone. Those were his 5 principles, and I think those are still relevant today. If we can go from the gun and be successful throwing the ball in October and November, I have no problem with it. I have no problem with it whatsoever. That is my only concern. But against Buffalo, Buffalo's coming off a big win against NIU. I don't know if they're for real or not. But from their other opponents, I believe that we should be able to handle them, and it'll be a big win at home for sure. They're not as good at quarterback. Their quarterback's down. They have a pretty good running game. They got 3 good running backs as well. It's just their quarterback play is okay. I'm wrong. No, they have a good quarterback. Their quarterback's doing okay. He's got 4 touchdowns and 1 interception. I was looking at the wrong guy.
We need Joe D to fact check you. You have to get
we need some real time fact checking here.
Real time fact checking.
They're defensively is where they've been struggling. They don't really pressure the quarterback. They don't have a ton of turnovers. So I think we'll be able to move the ball on them, and I think we'll be able to stop them. I think, our offensive firepower, is starting to come alive, and we're really explosive. I like the tempo. When we go fast, we pick it up and we go. So I think, we should score 30 points easily in this game, and it should be a win. Should be a big win.
Yeah, I guess for me, it's a continuation of what we've seen. We've seen real growth over the last 4 weeks. And everyone's got to realize it's not just the transfers; it's 2 new coordinators.
Yeah,
and our offensive coordinator who's never called plays before. And by the way, the guy's really smart. Yeah. Gordy's really smart, and so he's going to get better. So what I've seen, and I think the inflection moment for me was the pick 6 at Duke. Like, that was 17-0. We're down. They're going in there. That play right there, to me, although it didn't result in an ultimate win, was a play where, like, I think this season turned for us, where these kids said, "Oh, okay, well, we kind of shook it off." Merrimack was great, but that's a 1AA team that I think has had some challenges. And FAU, going into the FAU game, I was concerned because Tom Herman, and that's a real coach. That's a guy who's won, and he's been at Texas. He won at Houston. He's a young guy, and for us to show up like that was really impressive. And I went on the field in the 4th quarter, and the sheer size of us compared to them was our offensive line is so big.
Yeah, the tackles are big dudes.
And their D-line it looked like probably our D-lines from the 90s, which is not a slight. It's just the kids are huge now. And we were able to push them around. I think Buffalo, I watched the NIU game. They're smart. They're going to take away the run. If you're watching us, you're saying, I'm taking away the run.
Yeah.
And so they're going to load the box, which the same thing it did against NIU. NIU kept kind of trying to
pound it.
And I think it's going to be a big game for the exterior. I think our receivers they're going to get a lot of one-on-one matchups. I think Skyler, TJ, Easy Anderson. I think number 4, Gathing's going to have a big game. I think the freshman may have a couple catches too. I think it's going to be about exterior, getting the ball out quick, these quick bubbles, and then probably a couple deep shots. You get man coverage. I think our talent on the edge is better than theirs. So I think that's where this game's going to be won or lost. You are going to see outside zone from us. That's kind of who we are. And I think we got to run, and I think we block it in a way. And our tackle, Chase Lunt, is really a dude. Like, he's an NFL.
Yeah, he's unbelievable.
Really like, and by the way, Texas guy, great guy. Like, I mean, he's salted. He's exactly what you think he would be. And I think Ever's going to show through the arm. I think he has not had an opportunity to show the arm game yet. And I think we're going to see a major step forward there for us. Defensively, Matt Brock, the DC, and you guys got to meet him. You guys would love him. And Dave, you would love to play for a guy. This guy is
we watched his video. He was the one that we saw the intensity.
Yeah, well, you watch it live because it doesn't turn off. It's like the guy is constantly at this high level, and these kids are getting better. And our front is going to do really well against these group of 5 teams that are, not. And Duke, and by the way, Buffalo's pretty big up front. They average like 315, 320.
Yeah.
But us moving around is a problem. Jaden McDonald, the middle linebacker, is really that's a 6-year player.
Yeah.
Came to us. He was at Troy. He went to Indiana. He was at Troy, went to Indiana in the spring, was like, man, I'm probably not going to be the guy. Or if I am, I'm going to be splitting reps here. I want to go somewhere to be the guy. We find him. We bring him in. His brother plays at Ohio State defensive line. So this kid comes from real pedigree. And the kid's been a stud for us, like a real stud and a great guy. And his mom's even better. So for us, I think that's what it's going to come on. We're a little banged up in the secondary. This quarterback, I think, is much better thrower than what we saw at FAU. But, they had 180 yards of total offense against NIU.
Yeah.
And they won that game. So I think if we play smart, we don't turn the ball over, and we execute our exterior game and establish the outside zone, we're going to be in good shape. Yeah,
I mean, our running game, I mean, we have one running. Robinson is right at 300 yards. Mel Brown's at 252. And Cam Edwards is at 183. And there's nobody averaging under 4 yards a carry, 8.5, 5.6, 4.7, 6.9. I mean, they're running the ball so well.
Yeah. Expect a lot more Cam this week would be my.
Yeah. Cam's the guy. I mean,
I think he had such a big load at Duke. He carried such a heavy weight.
Yeah.
I don't know if he was up. Yeah. And I think I saw once they kind of had control of that, they wanted to, I think he only had 4 carries last week. So this kid, this is a tough dude. Norwalk kid. Great.
Yeah,
this is a tough dude. I mean, tough guy. Like he loves to hit. So he is our number one guy. Yeah. Darrell is great. He came to us from Charlotte. And he's been begging for reps, and he finally gets his chance. He took advantage of it. Great. Mel is going to be more of a third down guy for us and a scat guy. It's really speed with him. Yeah, he's only 175 pounds, so he is all about.
I didn't know he's that small.
Yeah, you don't want 250-pound guys touching him. You want him out in space. And then Victor, which I hope we're getting back this week. Listen, you need 4. You really, and that was Mora's creation. He's like, I want to load this backfield up with guys that we think are high quality dudes. Yeah. We know we have Cam, we know we have Vic, but I want 2 more. And to get Darrell from Charlotte, and he's got some stories about Charlotte that you guys wouldn't believe.
UNC Charlotte, he went to?
No, just Charlotte University.
Yeah.
Okay. Problems you mean at Charlotte University?
I didn't know that. Yeah. I didn't know they had football.
Yeah, I think, and we got another kid from Charlotte too, a lineman, Tank Green. So there's some interesting stories there. So you get a backfield like that, you can wear on these dudes. And the story no one talked about last week, and as a former lineman, I want to bring it up, is our left guard was out. And so we rotated 2 guys in. The kids played great. So we're getting our interior even more depth, which is awesome. So I feel like if we can, you follow the Skip Holtz plan, Dave, if you remember those days.
Yes, plan.
Follow that plan, we're going to be all right here.
Yeah, and we're 6.5-point favorites. I mean, I would take us. I still would take us.
The defensively, I think is gonna be the key, because we've been explosive offensively the last few weeks, which has been really good. But defensively is the key, and if our secondary can hold up, I always thought the first game was just a bad matchup for our secondary in the first game. Big Ten team's gonna have a certain level of speed, and you know how it is in stretching the field. It's not that someone has to be a lot faster, you just have to be a little bit faster and you could explode, right? But since those games, we're comparable speed-wise in the secondary to everybody. So that should not be no longer an issue, even though we're banged up a little. But speed, that's always the hardest thing, I think, defensively, when you get into the secondary matching up with wide receivers is the level speed. But we should be okay in all those areas. And I think that means, and can Buffalo run against us? I don't know that, size-wise, we should be in really good shape from that standpoint. And then offensively, I think that what you talked about with Nick Evers, I think that's the whole key to everything. I think we'll run the ball well. I think Skylar Bell, I mean, I love his playmaking capabilities. The other guys have done really well in the last couple of weeks. I think if he can get rolling, obviously he had battled back from an injury. The first week was the concussion. I didn't know it at the time, because I was very critical of it. But I just think that it was a tough matchup week one for us. And now seeing how we're progressing, if he can really, we open it up and give him the opportunity to run and throw, leverage the things that he does really well, and get the ball to the playmakers and then pound it when we need to, I think we're going to have a good opportunity. Because one of the things I always think that we could always get at UConn, and I just maybe think it's where we're situated, is offensive linemen. I always thought that we could get offensive linemen.
We always develop them well.
Well, where do offensive linemen like to go to school too is a thing. Like, I think offensive linemen like to go to a place like UConn. It's attractive to them. Yeah. Have obviously gone to school there. It has, you could get city amenities if you want to 25 minutes down the road, but you're also in really the middle of nowhere, right? And although it's built up from the time we were there, it's unbelievable what they've done. It's like a little city now, but you can get away from things. And I always thought that linemen like that, both offensive and defensive linemen. I think they like that. And I think that you're in a corridor between Massachusetts, Connecticut, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and you can dip into Ohio and New York State to get linemen that a lot of times may not get as heavily recruited because some of those schools will go have gone other places. Some of those kids may go to Penn State, right? Some of those kids may have gone to Ohio State, but you're still getting top tier guys in the offensive line. And I think that that's one of the things that I'm starting to see with our offensive line and defensive line as they're starting to come around, that physicality is a big thing. I always think recruiting wise, like, if the day that we can't get offensive linemen in UConn is the day that maybe we don't have a program. Because when I first came there, I couldn't believe the size of the offensive linemen that we had, between Pat Walsh at 6'9" and Sherrard Joseph, who was 6'7". Like, you look at these guys, obviously, you were a physical guy. Steve's a physical guy. Like, the guys that we were able to get were real physical guys, big guys, who could move, by the way, who were athletes. Tavar Kloss, and you could get those at UConn. And I think as we start to continue to leverage that, it's going to be hard, because I think that the coach Buffalo has, he's a very good coach. Pete Lembo has been around. He's an excellent coach. Ball State. He was at Lehigh. I believe he might have even recruited me back. I mean, he might have been a young guy back then when he was first started coaching. But he's had a lot of success at different levels, and he's going to continue to have success at Buffalo. But I think that we have the opportunity to really make a statement in this game. And if we take it to the team that beat NIU, and NIU had that big win against Notre Dame, you'll see, okay, you know what? The things that we start to want to happen probably will be attainable. And I think this is a big, big game. And like I said, Buffalo is one of those teams that even if they're having a good record, UConn always has pride in taking it to Buffalo.
We gotta be a MAC school, and we beat them in the International Bowl in 2009. I can't even remember the last time we played them, but we've always had success against Buffalo.
Yeah,
and we gotta put it on them.
We played them, Dave, when you were playing.
Yes.
And then my senior year, they had gone Division 1A.
Yes.
And that was our program's first Division 1A win, was against Buffalo in '99.
Correct.
We beat them 23-0.
Yep.
Yeah, this is it. And I like their coach, and I think his comments were pretty telling about us this week. He talked about, he basically said there's 100 new, I put on the film, it's like 100 new people in stores. So we're not going to creep up on them. They're fully aware of what's coming. I think the FAU performance and just running for that many yards, and I think even more importantly, just beating people up like that. It got them on their guard, but their D line's big enough. This is one of these games that I agree we should win. If we screw around, we turn the ball over, we make mistakes, we let a couple big plays happen, we could be in trouble. But I get the strong sense that Coach Moore, and I was in the locker room after the game last week, and his comments were perfect. It wasn't like, hey, we just killed this team by 30, great win. It's like, guys, we're not here for just this win. We're here for a lot more. We got to win the next one. We're not losing at home.
We did what we were supposed to do.
And he really keeps it level. And so I feel like if we all we got to do is just keep getting better every game. And Temple, by the way, had a tough game last night against Army. So we got, I'm not looking ahead to them, but we got to get to this bye week. We got to try to get to this bye week 4-2.
Absolutely.
I see in the schedule, there's a range of wins. I mean, but this is a team that could win 8, maybe 9 games. It's amazing for me to say that. And you know what? If you're winning that amount of games, maybe you win those other ones that maybe you quote unquote shouldn't win, right? And I think that Wake Forest is going to be, if we're rolling, that's going to be an opportunity. That's a game that most people would think, hey, are we going to be able to beat Wake Forest? But Wake Forest is good, but they're a beatable team. And the rest of the schedule, then you get to the point where, you get to have a game with your brother, right? Yeah. Syracuse, where for bragging rights. Like, that's what we want to get to. We want to get to the point where we're having a great year. We get to that Syracuse game. That's for bragging rights, right? Yeah. Like, it's no longer, wait, is this Jim Boeheim versus Jim Calhoun? No, this is UConn football versus Syracuse football. This is it's a big game. And Syracuse, they had a great hire. The coach they hired is he's a great coach. He has great, Northeast connections. Obviously, he's from New Jersey, in that New Jersey area, especially that Philly side of New Jersey, where he has those huge connections there. So I think that also becomes a battle from a recruiting standpoint for some of the players in the Northeast, especially, in areas where obviously with the transfer portal, you're nationally recruiting, you're obviously looking at different things, but you start to also be able to battle for some of those Northeast players too.
Yeah. Important. Yeah. It's all there in front. It's kind of, not that I'm a predictor of games here, but this is kind of where you thought. I think if you looked at the schedule objectively, FAU, I think, was a toss-up going into the year from the outside perspective. But, right. I mean, this is kind of where we all said this is probably where it's going to be. We all hope for better, and but
I thought 6 over under. And I thought 8 was definitely possible.
Yeah,
and you can fact check that one.
Well,
before we jump off, before we jump off, we need prediction scores here, right? So last week, I don't remember. I think I had maybe a 10-point prediction or something like that. High score, I think I had a 30 to 21. I was off a little bit in each direction. But we got to get a prediction. I think who was most accurate? I think Steve, you might have had the biggest.
I was, yes.
Yes, which is good. That's why you run Husky Talk, because you get you.
I was reminding you, yes. I will always brag about when I'm right, just so you know.
That's exactly
I'm not humble.
So you get to go last on the score then today. You get to go last on the score. Should I go? I should go first, since I only had a 9-point win basically last week. So I'll go first. I think UConn's going to score well against them. I'm going to go with a similar prediction to last week. I think it's going to be 27-21 UConn.
Okay.
Now that might piss off the gamblers, right? Because it's 6.5. So I guess I'm almost it's. But I think it's going to be a right around. I think UConn's going to be right around. I think the gamblers have the kind of the number right. It's going to be a 6-7 point game. Yep. So, all right, Mike, it's on you. What are you thinking?
I think it's Nick Evers, TJ Sheffield, Skylar Bell coming out party. I think we win 38-20. I think we score. I think they're going to be formidable, and I think it's going to be a tough first half. I think we're up by 7 at halftime, and we pull away late. We wear them down.
Perfect. That's awesome.
35-17.
All right, so wait, so you got an 18 points, both 18-point spread. I mean, Steve, you can't pick the same exact spread amount as Mike's pick. Can you go 36?
Okay, I'll go 35-10.
There you go. All right, good.
I'll go 35-10. 35-10. Their quarterback throws maybe 1 touchdown a game. I think we'll stop their running game. And I think that if Mike is correct and our passing game explodes, I'd love to see Evers have a 300-yard game like Fignano had against Merrimack. He threw for a bunch. Let Nick come alive. Let him go. I want to see Cam Edwards feed him. Just feed him and let him run. Let Robinson run. And the rest will take care of itself as long as they don't turn it over.
Well, Steve, if you win again, then you get to go last again. So that's the benefit. There's no
benefit
prizes that get handed out other than you get to go last.
I want the baseball cards. Can I get the cards?
Oh, you can get hey, I got lots of football cards for you.
Send me the football cards.
Yeah. I get you like a Stump Mitchell 19, Stump Mitchell 1990. You know what I mean?
He's getting a Tim Tuffle special, you know.
Tim Tuffle.
That was an awful picture.
That's great. I think the good thing is, Steve, here's the progress, right? We now have 3 wins for UConn on the vote. So that to me says that we're really moving in direction. There's no skepticism. We think that UConn now is moving in the right direction, which I think we're all pretty darn excited about.
Well, I uncorrectly predicted they would beat Maryland, but
did you predict?
Yes.
Well, Steve, here's what I do expect this. I expect UConn to go 11-0 on your 12-0 on your prediction. That I definitely expect. There's no doubt I expect them to go 12-0. So for that,
I'm going to turn
for that you should actually get 1 or 2 more extra parking passes.
Yes, I want the parking pass.
Yeah, and I should have to park way back on the airstrip as far away as possible.
Yes, yeah. I will let Phil know.
Hey, Dave, are you going next week, Dave, as well?
He can't go.
These next 2 weeks, my kid has games on Saturday. So
I think you said maybe.
And then after this, though, I'm good. So after these next 2 games, I think the rest of our games are Sundays. So I should be good. But these next 2 weeks, my games are Saturday.
Okay.
So
okay.
Yeah, we'll go after that.
So after that, I'll definitely be up. So I'm gonna come up because I want to bring him with me too. So
yeah, let me know when you want to come. We'll hook you up.
All right, perfect. That sounds great. All right, Steve, I'll let you do your outro because it just makes me laugh every time. So go ahead.
Well, it's just true. It's just about in life, we're not settling. When life gives you lemons, we don't want to make lemonade. We take 2 oranges, throw them back at life.